Hello and welcome. I literally just finished Endwalker like 5 minutes ago, and I have to talk about it. So let's talk about Endwalker. Uh, easily, easily my favorite of the expansions. Shadowbringers is incredible. Easily my favorite. I've said many, many times, and I'm going to get spoilers in a minute, but I've said many, many times that if not for the fact that you have to play a full three stories, a full 3 games worth of expansion, basically between A Realm Reborn, Heavensward, and Stormblood, just to get to Shadowbringers, and then play Shadowbringers, which is 4, that it would be my favorite Final Fantasy for sure if it was a standalone thing. Endwalker takes all that has happened from all the way at the beginning of A Realm Reborn and ties it all back in together into this amazing story that, in my opinion, is now my favorite Final Fantasy game. Just Endwalker. The whole lead up to and the whole story of Endwalker is so good. It starts off right off the bat, just like slamming. Here we go. We have Labyrinthos, we have Charlian, we have Thavnair. They're so good. And all that stuff, I don't want to spend too long on it because I just knocked a bunch of stuff over because I'm so excited. All that stuff is solid, right? All that stuff is good. But where this expansion goes, for me, as a fan of Final Fantasy XIV, it is the perfect send off, and it is so incredible that the beginning stuff is like great, but just doesn't hold a candle to the rest of it for me. Uh, here on out, I'm gonna get into spoilers. So, at 2 minutes of this video, we'll start spoilers. The short is just play this. It's incredible. Play FF14, play Endwalker, my favorite Final Fantasy by far. Now, spoilers. Labyrinthos and Thavnair are both really good, right? Charlian and Thavnair, Rezat, they're all really solid. It is the build up to the moment, right? So you go and you take out the Tower of Zot, and you have the stuff with Nidana, and it's all very good. It's all very strong. I like it. I love the Tower of Zot as a dungeon. It's great. Then you get to Garlemald, and this is where things begin to change. This is where things begin to take a turn. Because the story so far has been good. The story in Garlemald gets incredible. It gets rough in a lot of ways. It gets really heavy. And it's where we see the first start to the core theme of this expansion, really, which is you gotta get up. It doesn't matter how bad you've been knocked down. It doesn't matter how rough things are. You have to rise up again. You have to rise again when you fall. And it just, oh, this expansion is so good. The stuff with Euless and the In the Cold instance and the stuff with Quintus, it's all so good. And even then, it doesn't hold a candle to the stuff that comes in later. It is incredible how good the stuff that comes in later is, because it outshines all of the stuff that comes before. Even though I would say the story of Charlian and the story of Thavnair and Rezat and the story of Garlemald are like roughly Shadowbringers tier, right? I think the stuff of Garlemald for sure hits Shadowbringers tier. It is dark, but it is still hopeful. It is terrifying and terrible while still giving that glimmer of things could get better. And you do the Tower of Babel, and you fight at the Tower of Babel, and that dungeon is incredible. And you go to the moon, Mare Lamentorum. And this is where everything falls apart in the best way. Because you literally fight what I thought was going to be the final boss of the entire expansion as the first trial. Because you fight Zodiark. And it is incredible. And it is, Fandaniel's end is so good. And we'll get into Fandaniel in a minute. And it's so good. And everything to do with the moon is so good. And you have the shards, and you're trying to hold it all together, and you have to fight Zodiark, and you beat Zodiark, and then Fandaniel kills himself, thus destroying Zodiark in the process. And the world, the universe breaks. And the final days hit. And all of a sudden, Thavnair is a very different place. and you have Vanashpati, which is an incredible dungeon. It is everything that I loved about the Sin Eaters in Shadowbringers taken to the next level of, well, no, you don't have to get hit by a Sin Eater. You don't have to get corrupted by one. You could just become a blasphemy because you give in to despair, because you decided to stay down instead of getting up. One of my own like personal creeds that I keep that is very dear to my heart is, if you fall down 7 times, stand up 8. No matter how many times you get knocked down, you get up, you try again. If you made a mistake, you get up and you try again. And that is the core theme of this expansion. Because the people that become the blasphemies give up. Despair takes over and they don't see how things could get any better. And they literally just give up. And later we find out, of course, why and how, and everything to do with that is super cool. But Vanashpati just, it's very potent. So we go to Elpis. And Elpis is incredible. We go to Elpis so that we can try and figure this out, right? So we can try and figure out what is going on and why. And in Elpis, we meet Hermes, Meteon, as well as Emmett Selk, Hythlodaeus, and Vana. And this is where everything just like went to the next level for me. Getting more time with Emmett Selk, getting to learn more about him as a person, getting to spend time with Hythlodaeus and actually see his face, getting to spend time with Hydaelyn, as it were, with Vana, and getting to spend time with Fandaniel before he becomes Fandaniel, when he's just Hermes. Tissa's Hyperia is such a great dungeon, and if you didn't take Trust there, why? It's so good. You fight Hermes like 3 times in this expansion, if you really think about it, between Fandaniel, Hermes, and then later Amon. But it's so good, man. It's just so good. And I really love the way they split up Labyrinthos and Thavnair as zones, where you did half and then came back for the other half. I think that's really solid. Because I got all of Garlemald knocked out, and then all of Mare Lamentorum knocked out, and then got to go back to Thavnair, and then went to Elpis, and then got to go back to Labyrinthos. And I think that's really solid design. It just makes those zones matter even more, because I get the first part of them and then I get to come back into the other. And it's a lot like in Shadowbringers with Calusia and with Amarang, for instance. Elpis is for sure where I think the story just takes off and becomes incredible and even better. But somehow it gets even better, because we go into the Aetioscope and we go down into the Hells, into the core of the world itself, and fight some of our worst enemies. Some of the people that hate us the most: Livia, Ratatan, Ilberd, and Amon, Fandaniel. And then we get to meet Hydaelyn. And then we fight Hydaelyn. And if you didn't bring Trust to fight Hydaelyn the first time, what are you doing? And then we go and get the Ragnarok, and we go to Ultima Thule. And so this expansion, like, I'll get into Ultima Thule. I guess I could talk about Ultima Thule first, and then get into why I love this expansion so much. But, like, one of my favorite things in video games is exploring ruined civilizations, trying to piece together the story of what happened and build them up until I can understand what's going on. And Ultima Thule is the zone, the dragons, the Ea, the Omicron, and then later the Dead Ends gives you the 6th world, the 9th world, and the 16th world. And you just have, like, the fish people that polluted their planet too much because they tried to expand onto land. And you have the people that made a one-world government that eventually faced civil war and destroyed themselves. And the moment in the Dead Ends where the rockets fire is harrowing and powerful. And then you have the 16th where they became immortal and couldn't die anymore, and they hated it, and they found paradise, but in paradise lost the spark that makes life. You have the dragons that felt their long lives were a testament to their shame of having lost to the Omicron, and they just can't take it anymore. You have the Ea that have found the truth of the universe, and because of that no longer want to live anymore and find everything to be waste and loss. And you have the Omicron that have won every battle and no longer have a battle to fight. Literally the Gundam Wing thing of what happens to the soldier after the battle is over. And I love it. It is 100% my favorite thing to do in video games is to find that. And we wrap all that in around this story of this group known as the Scions of the Seventh Dawn. So every expansion has built you up as the Warrior of Light. Every single expansion has gone, you're the Warrior of Light. You're the one building up. You're the one saving people. These other people are doing their best to help you, but they can't go fight the primals. They can't go fight the wars. They're doing their best, but this is them. This expansion makes them your team, your party. You travel together. You fight together. You take them through all the trusts except for Hyperborea. You work together with this squad of 7 people and your allies to go save the world. And it's what makes it hit even harder when they start taking them away from you. And yes, things all work together at the end. Things all come out okay, right? But you still felt that loss in the moment. It's not hey, well, they just got resurrected. It's literally, they're doing their best to fight on, and we don't know if they're going to make it. I love everything about Ultima Thule. That is such a cool place. I cannot wait for post-patch stuff, and I hope we get to do stuff there. And it's not just like Azizla, which is like, well, there's trials that happen around this. I love Ultima Thule. All of this while wrapping around this story of introducing you to Vana, who's literally Heidelin, and to Hermes. And by the end of the expansion, I feel like we have a really solid understanding of who these characters are. And Meteon. Meteon as a character is so interesting to me. Because as an Intellecti, she literally feeds off the emotions of others around her. And she goes star to star to star to star, and all she finds is despair. So she's taught, literally taught, that she cannot stand up again after she falls. That there's no point in getting back up again, because you're just going to fall again. When the point is, if you fall down 7 times, stand up 8. No matter how many times you fall down, you have to keep getting up, because life is still worth living. And that's what this expansion is. And I love it. And you could argue that a bunch of other Final Fantasies try to tell that same story, right? I mean, you have 4 with getting over your crimes, your mistakes, your sins to become a better person. You have 6 with even when everything's falling apart around you and the world itself may be in ruin, you still have to stand up to do what's right. You can go down all of them, right? But that is literally the core theme of this story, is rise again. Rise and fall and rise again. And nowhere does that pay off as strongly as the very end of Ultima Thule. When you're walking up the path that the twins have made for you, and the memories, the spirits of those that are pushing you forward give you the strength to move forward as you carry the burden of being the last one that literally everyone's lives depends on you. And it's not just the lives of a bunch of people that you don't know. It's your party members' lives. It's your friends' lives. It's Emmett Selk and Hythlodaeus and Hermes and Vana, and it's their ability to be reborn. And it's literally everyone that you've lost over the course of this game and their ability to be reborn. It all rides on you. And you hit that first one, and it's Artbert. And it got me good, man. And you just keep, next up, it's Harshaphon. And then you have each of the leaders from each area, and just, it's so good. It's so good. And you finally get back to it again, and it bookends with Ardbert. I love this expansion. I love the dungeons. I love the trials. I think they're all amazing. I love the zones. There's not a single one of them I dislike. But what this expansion really is for me is not the fights. It's not the zones. It's not the quests. It's the story. It's getting to see that little smile of Emmett Selk as you summon him with Ozim's power. And he goes, I had to watch all this from the stands, and now you're pulling me into it, you know? It's those little moments of Thancred stepping forward even when he can't breathe to try and hit Meteion. It's Alice's shock at the people of the 16th world and how they're falling apart. It's Y'shtola standing up to tell the people of the EO that they have to stop, that they have to understand that knowledge is not something that just is worthless when you've gained it. It's something that you gained for yourself. It's something that means something to you. Every single part of this story has led to Ultima Thule. And that you have to get up again. You can't stay down. There's so much more I could talk about. There's so many great characters. Hermes is a character. Hermes and the path that he takes from, well, I just don't know, to, well, here's my answer, when that incredible moment when Meteion reveals that all of the other stars are dead, to Hermes losing it, to Hermes being Amon, to Hermes being Fandaniel, to Asahi showing up to get his revenge on Amon, to Xenos Viator Galvis literally coming to save you at the end. Of all people, Xenos himself coming to save you at the end, and that incredible instance where you fight him off at the end. Never would have seen that coming. In no way could you have convinced me that Xenos would be the one to help you defeat Meteion. All because Alice asked him a question. I love this expansion. I don't know where 14 is going to go from here. The stuff that you get in the man, I haven't even talked about the post-credit scene where you get to talk to everybody and they're all, the Scions of the Seventh Dawn are splitting up so that the world powers will have to step in and take care of themselves. It just, I don't know where the story's going to go from here. I have a terrible feeling we're not going to see some of those characters ever again. And I hope that's not true, because I already really liked most of the characters. Some of them I outright loved already. And this expansion only made that close party that you get over the course of it hit harder. Astinian not being able to manage his coin purse well, you know? Thancred desperately wanted to look cool for Reen, even though she's not there to see it. Urianger trying to move on with his grief from Mumbrita and trying to be for everyone else and for the Loporrits what Mumbrita was for him. Y'shtola trying to deal with learning whether or not she should try and write this stuff down and have a biased opinion on it or try to just let it lie. But ultimately you decide with her that writing it down is better so that the future generations can know and remember. Alice and Alphino dealing with the guilt of the fact that they weren't able to save people in Garlemald and recognizing this is just part of life. We have to keep moving forward. And G'raha Tia desperately wanting an adventure. I love this cast of characters. And the fact that you get to spend the whole expansion with them just really drives it home how much harder it is to watch them leave. But they've earned it. If anybody has, it's them. I love this expansion. I love these characters so much, and I could just go on and on about what I love most about it. I could talk about how cool and distinct each civilization is in Ultima Thule. I could talk about how incredible of a place Elpis is and how going to the past with a little bit of help is super cool. How getting to see that other side of him itself and spend time with Hythlodaeus and work together and learn more about the Amauroteans. It's all great. But the core theme of this expansion is what hits me the hardest. Rise again. Get back up. It's one of those things that it was already a part of my core philosophy. But if I had seen it sooner, this game 100% would have been in my list of like things that I learned that made me rethink who I am as a person. Because this is that same philosophy again. And it's what makes that final moment with Meteion when you convince her to sing a new song, a song of hope. So powerful. Endwalker is incredible. It is, in my opinion, the best Final Fantasy game, which is crazy because it stands up against FF4 and FF6 and FF9, and you have to get there by playing all those other expansions first, which are fully required to get to this, but I still think Endwalker on its own is worth it. It's incredible. I love it so much, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. Again, I could just go on and on, but I would just be repeating myself. I would just be rambling. I think that all the characters were done really well here. All the plot lines were great. I can't wait to see what we get in the future. But if this is our last farewell to some of these characters, then they earned it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And until next time, I've been Trey. This has been The Full Spectrum. Remember to always enjoy the full spectrum that FF14 has to offer.